Welcome back. So for those of you following along, this will be day 2 of a bunch of quick reviews of some very special sets that were sent to me by a very special man in Ohio, so thank you to him. So today's topic will be Softears Cerberus. Cerberus? Cerberus is probably how you pronounce it. I will call it Cerb because I could barely pronounce that. But it is a very high-end tribrid 1DD, 4BA, 2 ESTs. So up close, it is very handsome, very nice looking shell. It's a little hard to see it on camera, but the way the gold actually lifts from the black, it's actually a little bit 3D looking. There's quite a bit of depth to how they polished it and the way that those accent stripes kind of fall in there. So super attractive. There we go. Cerberus on the side. There is a kind of a recessed 2-pin there, vent. Kind of a nice filled nozzle. So yeah, super attractive. No complaints. The only complaint I would say is it is a bit chunky. It's a bit tall. If it's sitting in your ear, you sort of know it, but not extremely bad. So this is the stock cable. I am definitely not going to plug one of my custom cables into a $2,000 set and accidentally crack the resin or anything crazy. So stock cable it was. So not too bad. It actually says Cerberus on the side somewhere, so right there. So yeah, not too bad. It's a little stringy for $2,000, but I'm not going to really crap on it too much. It gets the job done. So let's say the story starts last night. I am listening to Cerb on Discord, seeing what's going on, and so Team X6, very helpful, super knowledgeable guy, says, "What do you think of Cerb?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. Definitely one of my favorites." And he's like, "Yeah, it's so smooth and refined." And after you get past the being stunned and wowed, and you get past the price and all that, what's really there, and he nailed it sort of in 2 words. So 2 words that are better than anything I came up with as I'm writing all these notes. But refined is really the one. It is very much a super refined set. And if you think about cars, and you think about how you detail cars, and there are no dings on the doors, there's no scuffs on the leather. This one is polished from beginning to end. It is spotless and clean and smooth. I think refined is that word that you would describe the sound. Every little bit, every driver, every note has a beginning and end, a beautiful middle. It is super refined, much more than anything kind of comes close in Budgetland. It's the perfect word for this set. So, kind of getting into it, this would probably be my Leave the Hobby set, the end game. Is it that good? Yeah, it definitely is, but more so to the point, you sort of have to really think about your preferences. All these sets are good. A $2,000 set, a $1,000 set, they're all going to do bass well, mids well, treble well. But how they match your preferences is really how you differentiate between them. And this kind of mid-centric, very smooth, is very much in my preferences. So is this the best set on Earth? Well, it really has to be the one that matches what you're looking for. And I will say that this one comes extremely close to satisfying everything I would ever look for. So let's take a very quick look at the graphs. And what's actually fascinating about the graphs isn't so much the graph. That's kind of cool and smooth and nice, and it's got this nice base. But what was more interesting to me is if you actually went back and looked at what Critical had talked about, this linearity from the mids all the way through the base to about right here is not actually what mine measures as. So you're probably saying, well, maybe your measurements are kind of crap compared to his, which is highly possible. But does it sound a little bit more like that? I think the warmth and the bass level, the little slight boost to it, I think it does. So, perhaps it's just me and my measurements, but, someone else actually measured one that measures the same. So did Ben actually measure the same one when I said that this is serial number 4 and there's not many in the wild? So, highly likely that he actually measured the same set that just went through a couple different people and ends up on my desk as a loaner. So very possible. So I'm not actually sure, and I only mention it because people talk about, when you talk about Cerberus, they actually talk about this as a feature, this very linear, only 5 or 6 decibel rise from mids through bass. So mention it. I found it very interesting that I couldn't quite measure it as close to critical, yet someone actually measured one the same. So there you go. So that's enough on graphs. So very power hungry. This one is quite on the harder side to drive. You can use it from a phone, but it basically sounds thin and small. Nothing like $2,000. So don't do that. And I'm pretty sure if you're buying one, you're not going to plug it into your phone. But I didn't actually plug it into my phone. I plugged it into the 3.5 output on my Q5K, which probably has more power than your phone, but still not nearly enough to make this one sound good. So EJ07 owners feel right at home with Cerb. It's that, very much a volume-loving, warm, smooth mids, relaxed and immersive, long session set. Just how I would describe EJ07. You're pretty much in the same ballpark, just a more refined version of an EJ07 or even an M. I think graph-wise, this one is actually closer to M than it is to 07. So you can certainly say there's not enough bass or there's not enough treble, there's no bass slam, but this one really is a tribute to all day long listening mids. You put it in your ears and you don't really think about it for hours. It is, that comfortable to listen to for me. So like I said, it pretty much, 100% matches my preferences for sound, and you just put it in and kind of forget about it. So you detail chasers, probably not for you. This is a very relaxed treble, but there's nothing out of place, nothing forced. And that's why I said it's very much a tribute to the mids as opposed to hearing super details and twinkly things and sparkly things. Not so much a set that really emphasizes that bit, and probably also the reason why it never scores as high as it probably should. When I say it's my, leave the hobby set, and some people would rate it a B plus or whatever it was rated on Critical site or other sites, a lot of it comes down to this. And if you are a detail chaser, obviously not so much for you. If you are a relaxed mid type of guy, a mid-centric guy, you're probably going to score it higher than other people who are looking for different things. So know your preferences. So the bass, like I said, it's the slight warm boost. But, out of all the budget sets, even some of the mid-fi sets, the detail and the texture and the bass is the part that really separates the set for me. It's kind of radically different than anything I've ever heard before. And you think you've heard detail and quality bass, and then you hear this, and it's really a whole different level, a level that I've never heard before. So, yeah, it's that part is absolutely stunning. What happens in the bass and the amount of detail and texture, and time almost kind of slows down when you hear it because you're hearing these bass notes and all this detail and all this texture, and it sort of elongates these notes, and you're like, wow, I just never heard that bit for that long with that much detail. So yeah, that for me, that was really the stunning part of this whole set, was hearing that. And like I said, the mids, amazing, and we'll get to that in a second, but what really shocked me was the bass, and that dynamic driver is very, very special. So like I said, perfect tight full bass, but the slam it just doesn't go out of place. It is not a slimy set at all. So if that's your thing, probably not for you, but definitely more of a natural, easygoing, relaxed set in the bass as well. So the mids, absolutely sick, I think is what I would say. Very natural. But again, the separation and imaging over very high detailed bass is stunning, right? You don't ever get there with a budget set. It's even hard to get there with even an EJ07, but EJ07 does the mids, just as good, but probably the bass detail on Cerberus is kind of a next level kind of thing. So to hear the two in combination is pretty amazing for me. And so, yeah, I will point out the bass is kind of amazing and the most noticeable part, but when you hear the mids over it, it's even better. So there's just no bloat. There's tons of clarity and transparency. It's warm and super smooth, but the vocals are super articulated. I can't even figure out what it is. It's not even a raw resolution thing. It's just this weird, refined, it's refinement. Detail and texture and dynamics and this uncompressed sound, spacious and airy. The decay and the dimension. There's just lots of stuff that all combine, but everything is not smoothed over. It's just very articulated, very clear. Kind of blows me away. So, yeah, mids are definitely sick in so many ways, but refined is kind of where it goes back to. So the treble, smooth and detailed, but very much a relaxed level, and it's not dark. If the treble is dark, you definitely have to turn it up and let it come into place besides the vocals. It definitely does that. EJ does the same thing, Tony does the same thing. At lower volumes, the vocals sound kind of at an okay level, but everything else is below them. So you do need to adjust the volume to be more in line with the vocals, and especially on this set, I found myself doing this much more than any other set. I tended to adjust the volume for each track. There's such a wide range. The volume scaling on this is quite large, so you can turn the volume up quite a bit. It's a huge actually range compared to other sets of how much you can play with the volume, and the vocals almost stay constant and everything else is moving up around them. It's wild. So, not something you do on every set, but on this one, it was very much very cool to play with the volume per track. So enough detail for me, but not if that is your priority. So like I said, if you're a detail chaser, probably not going to be your set, but for someone who's not looking for extreme amounts of detail, it's kind of right there in the ballpark of great treble. So that is a quick take on Cerberus. So thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.